big a problem has it been for people to not have access to broadband in Anderson County?
Oh wow, it's just tremendous now. Broadband is no longer just about a luxury like a Netflix or watching TV or any of those type things. It's essential. We've learned this through the work from home model that we've all been accustomed to for the last couple of years. It has definitely put a strain on people and resources to be able to connect to the internet. So it's not just about entertainment. Now we have kids trying to learn from home, e-learning. All of those different situations just pose a huge problem for our citizens if they can't connect.
Do you have a rough idea about how many citizens don't have access to at least fast Wi-Fi?
We don't have the exact number. You know, the state minimum is 25.3, but we know that 25 upload, 3 download is really not sufficient to do a lot of things that people like to do. Not just gaming, but just logging into a website for an e-learning portal, for instance. That's just not enough. There's a lot of folks that have that category of speed or struggle through a hotspot. I would say that about 30% of our population do not have an internet subscription.
And will this new partnership remedy that? I mean, are people going to have faster than the 25, or is that?
They certainly will. One of the requirements of this RFP was to have synchronous speed up and down at a minimum of 100, 100. So that just about completes anybody's need. Your cable systems are probably on 100, 100 in your residential areas that have service through a Charter or an AT&T. This will be that speed also, but it'll be synchronous. And it'll always be synchronous. It won't be throttled. It'll always be up and down at the same speed.
And this is all contingent on when the funds comes in, is that correct?
A portion of it is. So West Carolina Telephone has their footprint. They have their own investment. They're expanding up into Anderson County from Abbeville County. Blue Ridge has their own footprint, and they have resources that they're pouring into other areas of Anderson County. The collaboration of those two and Upcountry Fiber is how we'll go to the state to apply for what is coming from ARPA and what is coming from the federal funds. There is some $688 million that will be available through the state for all of South Carolina, and it's just a matter of who gets what, how it will be allocated, and how it's going to be distributed by the counties.
And do they have a timeline, how soon they hope to get started?
Timeline should begin somewhere around March. We think that's probably a 6-month application process, so in the fall we start to see some of those funds trickle into the state, and then after that it'll be ongoing after.
And so is there a timetable when people will start seeing Wi-Fi that don't have it now?
In those existing areas like WCTEL and Blue Ridge, they're going to see track hose starting to move already. A couple of our speakers today will elaborate a little bit more on those projects, but those are ongoing, those already have been approved, and those will impact Anderson County residents.
Well, I'm Jim Levingood from Blue Ridge Electric.
Jeff Wilson, West Carolina Telephone Cooperative.
George Wyatt, Palmetto Engineering.
Okay, George, I'm going to start with you because you were one of the ones who helped put together the map and the need and what we have going on. Tell people a little bit about how that came to be.
Well, it originally started with the leaders in the county. Anderson County commissioned us to assist with a study. Our firm has done studies similar to this across the country, and so this was not new to us. But when we applied the metrics to this county, I had some really neat things fall out. The fact that the cooperation between these two cooperatives was already ongoing was a big plus, and it shows up in the metrics, the financials. So we were pleased to be able to help the county with this. We're a local Anderson County engineering firm. It was quite an honor to help. We were able to bring that information forward, and the county was happy with it, and then they have taken that in turn, generated RFP and awarded that RFP to Upcountry, which are these two gentlemen, and we're thrilled about the way this thing is moving forward.
And when you did your study, how significant was the need here? I mean, how many people are in need of reliable broadband?
I wouldn't say all of them, but I would say most of them. You rarely run into someone that tells you, I'm really, really happy with my internet. That's rare. You have places where internet passes a home, but there's affordability issues. So it's not always the availability of internet, it's the availability of quality, affordable internet, and that's a problem. And so that's what this is trying to address.
And you gentlemen y'all are already trying to do some of these things, and some new funding has become available that's going to accelerate it. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, we started about, 2.5, 3 years ago looking at the possibility of doing this. realizing that the areas that we serve in the northern part of Oconee County, Pickens County, Anderson County, and Granville County were in desperate need of this. And recognizing we already had facilities and infrastructure there and some electric infrastructure there. So trying to take advantage of that and seeing if it made any sense to try to work together. And ultimately, we formed a partnership.
Same with y'all?
Yes, yeah. Our company has been operating for 60 plus years and in the internet business for the last close to 25 years. We have built out an all-fiber network in part of Anderson County, the lower part, and Abbeville County and McCormick County, and we expanded. And so we've had the expertise, and our two cooperatives naturally just came together. Fundamentally, we're so similar because we're focused on serving the membership, and we work in a collaborative way together, and with the counties, with the school districts. And the school districts, they've really identified a great need in the holes, and we've worked closely with them on identifying students that are lacking good broadband coverage.
And because you guys were already working on this, the funding, y'all will be able to accelerate, y'all will be able to get this going pretty quickly, correct?
That's correct. We've been working on projects already in Oconee and Pickens counties, and so we're getting ready to kick some projects off in Anderson County really in the next couple of weeks. So we're excited about that. We're going to be making that announcement today.
Same with y'all?
Yeah, and as the funding becomes available, that's what's going to accelerate the speed of delivery. Some of these areas are higher costs to build into, and thankfully there's ARPA funds available, and there's some other federal programs, and we feel we're positioned very well because of the collaboration between the county, the schools, the electric and telephone cooperatives, that we'll make the most efficient use of those funds building out. It's no different than back in the 40s with the Roosevelt administration. They went and these co-ops were formed, and what a great success
The Federal
story.
Electric Co-op, when
Yeah,
people didn't have
that's right.
electricity
Yes.
out in the country.
That's right.
And
Same basic concept.
And the telephone companies, cooperatives back in the 50s, they went through the same process. And today, we feel that what happened 80 years ago, we can recreate that by using state and federal funds very, very efficiently, keeping those funds in the community. And we've got great experience in doing this. We have a passion for serving, and that's what we're about.
Once all the funds are in place, how quickly can you say all Andersonians in the whole county will have reliable broadband?
With proper funding, I think we would say in the next 3 years. Funding is so key to it. I mean, that's really the secret to the whole thing. We're going to announce 3 projects today in Anderson County, and that'll get us a good start. But that's just it, a good start. So we're looking forward for the next round of funding and making sure that gets in place, and we can really move fast once that happens.
So people are already going to, in some places, are going to begin to see change
Yes.
almost immediately.
Yes, we have 3 projects planned this year for Anderson County. We're going to start in the next couple of weeks with our first project, which will be in the Pendleton-LaFrance area. And we're excited about that. That's an area that's very unserved and underserved. And that project will take several months to build out. We have a second project that will probably start in the late spring. That's going to be in the Piercetown area, another very underserved area. And then we have a final project, so far at least, for 2022, and that's going to be over in Townville. And so when you get all those combined, that's going to be about 300 miles of fiber, which represents about a $15 million investment. And that will allow us to serve somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 locations once those projects are complete. And that's the plans so far for Anderson. Now with some additional funding, that number can change pretty dramatically.
And y'all are already in the process as well, right?
Yeah, so we're working collaboratively
Right.
together on these projects. Down in the southern part of the county, we've already built fiber to our cooperative members. They've had that in place for the last 10 years. We've expanded a little bit through some CARES funding in some areas in Anderson County that were underserved. And any other funding that we can get, Upcountry Fiber, we're going to figure out how to get out there and serve these underserved areas.
Some of these places have been territorial over the years, but the places that, let's say that Spectrum says we own that, but we're not going to do anything about it, y'all can now serve those people. Is that going to be correct as we move forward?
Well, it's
in some areas?
Yeah, some of the issues that we've had with the rural areas with the investor-owned companies is under that model, unless there's a return, a quick return, they tend not to invest. And that's why we have the problem today. That's actually why the cooperatives exist, is because the investor-owned utilities, stock companies, it just didn't make sense. And that's what we see today. There'll be some areas, pockets where you have high density. Blue Ridge Electric, they built out power to all their members. Our cooperatives built out telephone and internet throughout all our members. We've even inched out, expanded into some other areas, and in terms of future areas between the two cooperatives, we want to figure out how to serve all these areas.
I think you guys aren't, obviously, because y'all been a part of this for a long time, but I think the average citizen would be surprised at some of the areas that are either unserved or underserved. Some areas you think are pretty populated and close to town just are underserved.
You're right. I mean, that's exactly correct. There's a lot of areas that have a fair density to them that still don't have real high quality internet service. So that's part of the challenge. Definitely the rural areas and the less dense areas, but you're right. Some of those areas are much denser in nature and still have very poor internet.
Yeah, what's exciting about the internet and the fiber that we're putting in today is we call it future-proof. We're providing symmetrical speeds that we can go as much as 10 gigabit with the optics that we put on, symmetrical. So there's really no limitations. And the work from home, the telehealth, the distance learning, the kids that are learning from home, that changes their lives by having this quality internet and having a pure fiber network. It is, we're not going to have to go back and reinvest over the top of that, because that technology is future-proof. Unlike, a coaxial or a wireless or a copper network or a hybrid network, we're pure fiber all the way to the.
This project is especially important to you because you live in one of those areas that doesn't have reliable broadband. Is that correct?
I do. The area, every broadband provider and every utility provider in this state knows my address because I've been beating on them for 16 years and I've been in the General Assembly. It's a game changer for our part of the world because let's face it, the numbers just aren't there to run. They're going to take care of the metropolitan areas first, but we've provided, the Office of Regulatory Staff told us what they needed to finish building out the state. We provided that in the Senate last week. And the thing for people to remember, we have these announcements, everybody gets excited, it's all good, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to still take a while to get them, but without first steps like this, it'll never happen. But I can't say enough about the leadership of Anderson County and how they've been worked in conjunction with all of us. We've all tried to work together, but Anderson County's really stepped up.
And how fast can this money get in place? I know that's something you've been dealing with a long time. How fast can the money move?
Yeah, what we're waiting on is there's infrastructure money coming from Washington. We've provided $400 million from the state, which is Office of Regulatory Staff told us what they needed. They'll, of course, go through some hoops to get it in place, but I think they've pretty much got everything in place. Office of Regulatory Staff is probably the least known state agency in the state, but with Nanette Edwards' leadership and her staff, I mean, boy, they can make it go. And I think it'll be sooner rather than later. But like I said, it's not going to happen next week. But we're just so encouraged.
And have they told you when it was going to be at your house yet?
No, they hadn't told me that. But they every time I walk up, it's 400 Filter Plant Road. I know.
Today's announcement is particularly rewarding for you because you're one of those people that live in an area that doesn't have broadband, correct?
Correct. And I've had a lot of constituents reaching out to me, asking for help to find access to high-speed internet, and it's been frustrating, aggravating, but I think this announcement today will be something that will allow us to provide internet services to citizens who otherwise would not have that availability.
And I think a lot of people would be surprised to know it's not. You don't live on a farm 20 miles out of town.
No,
they're high density areas that don't have any reliable broadband.
Oh yeah, my property actually joins Michelin's property, and I'm about a mile and a half from Pendleton High School, and we don't have any access in that area. So hopefully we'll be able to provide access to some of our rural areas and some of those areas that are really not so rural, that doesn't have that opportunity.
And how long has Anderson County Council been working on this?
I've been working on this in council since I got into office, and I've been working with our grant writer, trying to find grants and other things to expedite the situation. But I think the positive thing this came out of COVID is that there was a need and a recognition that we need broadband, and I think at the state level, Representative Brian White, I think he was instrumental in changing some laws and writing some laws that were that would allow us to move forward like we're on plans that we're getting ready to announce today. So it's a good thing, and I'm excited about it for Anderson County and the citizens of Anderson.
How important is it with school, during the pandemic and all, for your district to have broadband for all students?
It's vitally important for Anderson School District 3. We have areas, especially around the Flat Rock area and around 29, where our students don't have a choice. The pipe doesn't run there, and so when we're on e-learning, they either have to drive to a hotspot or they're lost. Now, during the pandemic, we were able to put some hotspots on buses and take buses to those areas, and hotspots are great, but it's also dependent on the strength of your cell service. And so in many of those areas, cell service is not quite as great too, so you either get no signal or a slow signal. So getting broadband in our underserved areas will be a game changer for Anderson School District 3.
Have they given you an idea how quickly they can help you guys get going?
Well, they keep telling us that we're a priority, and so I keep talking, and I want us to remain a priority. So during the snow days last week, I had a student reach out to me and talk about how she couldn't keep up with her work because of lack of internet access. And on days like that, they're not able to drive to the hotspots we have in the district. And so it will be a game changer for everyone.
How serious an issue is lack of high-speed broadband in your school district?
Well, we've got a lot of areas in our district that don't have access to broadband to internet, and that certainly hampers how we can help students, especially during a pandemic, for goodness sakes, that we never thought about, but also on days like last week where we had weather issues, and we got through that just fine. Did some things on the front end to be prepared for that, but boy, it sure would help if we could do some synchronous live stuff during those weather days for all of our students. That would certainly make a difference.
Yeah, e-learning is totally dependent on being able to get connected, right?
Well, it is. We can do some things and download some things. We are a one-to-one district, so we can put things on the Chromebooks for them to do. We don't do a lot of new learning, which if we had everybody with internet, we could do new learning. So we don't want to leave students out from gaining access to new information. And so, I'm excited about this. We've been working with the county for right at a year, being prepared to roll out something when the time came. And so I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the forward thinking from our county to look at what was coming down the pike and have opportunities to be prepared when that occurred.
I think people would be surprised some of the areas in your district that are pretty high density that don't have broadband.
Yep.
Do you have any feel about how many of your students don't have reliable access?
I would say, the last map that I looked at it looked like about 50% of our families in some areas that we drive by every single day that you would think, well, there's got to be internet there. Right off of Clemson Boulevard, there's tons of areas that don't have access. So, that's a big issue, and I related. It's not like having water or sewage or electricity, but it's next. And providing access for everybody, given the opportunity for access, I think is really important. And I'm proud of our county for stepping up.
How long has the county been working on this?
We've been working on this probably for, I would say, about 2 years, and we really started getting traction about a year ago. but we think this historic announcement between WCTEL, Blue Ridge, and Anderson County really is going to be a model for the state. And the fact that we have our legislative delegation and our county council is committed that we'd like to have this service for everybody in Anderson County. And the only way we can do that is working with our partners. And I think this is a great step. You heard the announcement of projects in LaFrance today and in Townville and other parts of Anderson County. And there will be more coming out as some of the federal and state grant funds start hitting. But what I can tell people is this: we already know where we need to go. We don't have to go do a study. We know where to go, how to go, and as soon as we get money, we're going. And we've got some money now, and we're moving.
So once all the money's in, how long will it take to get everybody?
It could be 2 or 3 years. It could be it depends on how fast that the state and the federal government puts that money out, because like I said, we're ready. We don't have to wait on anybody. We're not fixing to get ready. We're readier than anybody else can be.
So within 5 years from now, nobody should have any question about how.
I hope so. That's our goal. That is absolutely our goal, but we'd love to do it in 2.